Headkicks and Haymakers. Good evening, fight fans. Welcome to another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. You know what it is. I am that dude, as always, Bodkins. Welcome to our UFC 280 post show. We get to do one late tonight because the fights were on this afternoon. If you missed our preview show, check that out, where we actually break down the fights, make our picks, locks, dogs on the card. So if you missed that this morning, please check that out. It is also now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So you can listen to it there if you missed it out on here on the YouTube. But as always, you know who it is. I'm going to bring in my man, Craig with a K. Craig, what's up, big dog? 280 delivered, my friend. Let's jump right to it, right?
Yeah, man, it didn't disappoint, man. Early card, man, but it was a good. If you had the chance to, watch the fights, man, prelims were good, card was good. It definitely delivered.
It definitely delivered. A lot of good fights, some good finishes. Let's go ahead. We'll start with the main event, Craig. Islam Makhachev is delivered, folks. We questioned on who he had fought prior to, and we chalked it up to, chalked a lot. I did a lot about who Charles had beaten prior to this fight, but that streak now comes to an end. The first round was good. I scored it Islam, 10-9, 10-8 Islam. And then the second round was able to tap Charles here. Craig, you had Islam on this one. Congratulations, buddy. You got this one right.
Yeah, man. I like Charles, man, and I was kind of rooting for Charles, but you kind of saw it throughout this whole card, man. Team Khabib is, a force right now. And just watching Islam, man, and watching that fight, I texted you whenever it was going on, and I said, man, that's Khabib out there. Like, he looks like Khabib. Like Kenny said in the group message earlier, it's not Khabib light. He's not mini Khabib. He's not Khabib light. That dude fights just like Khabib out there. If anything, he looks stronger than Khabib. So he's dangerous, man. And with the win is his first call out. They said that they want Volk in Australia. That's a huge fight, right? But I don't know, man. I don't think I like that fight for Volk. Islam he looks like he's going to be a force, man. And I feel like he's definitely going to be around the top for a little while, for sure, hanging around the top of the division.
Yeah, kudos. That was a nice scene afterwards, right? Like, they brought in Volk. They had a nice little handshake. Khabib said, "Hey, this is what we want for next," and that's fight. They're going to go to Australia. They want to take on Volk as Volk tries to become champ here in two divisions. That'll happen in February if he can beat Islam. We've never seen Volk fight at 155, so that'll be interesting. But Islam looked all as bit advertised. For you to tap out Charles Oliveira, who actually owns the UFC submission record, like, for you to do that, and he hurt Charles a couple times too, standing up. I thought his footwork, his stand-up game was much improved. We haven't even really seen a whole lot of stand-up game because he just mauls guys in that first round and then just grounds and pounds them.
Yeah, man, and for the most part, from start to finish, this fight was, in Islam's control. It just kind of went the way, that you got to think that they planned for it to go, and the way that they wanted it to go. Charles, he looked like he was comfortable taking it to the ground, and he tried to get a few submissions, but Islam, he fights the hands well. He's strong, and he's a great wrestler, man. Those Sambo wrestlers, they just do it a little bit differently, man. And like I said, this guy, when you were on the mat with Khabib, it was a bad spot to be, no matter who you were. And it looks like it's the same thing with Islam. If you can do that to Charles, you got to think he can do that to just about anybody, because Charles Oliveira, we've seen a man, probably the most dangerous person to take to the ground. I mean, you want him on his back less than you want probably anybody else on their back, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen All-American wrestlers like, Gaethje didn't go to the ground with him. Chandler didn't want to go to the ground with him. He was able to tap out Dustin Poirier and Gaethje, really. So we kind of know what's next here. We know it seems like it is going to be Volk and Islam. Like, that's what they both want. Volk said the lightweight the lightweight title for the pound per pound title. That's kind of what maybe they're going to book this as. We said we don't really like it for Volk. I mean, Volk's going to have to. Volk's a great defensive wrestler. We've seen him with guys like Ortega and a couple guys like that, and that's what they're going to practice. It'll be. How do you like that fight? I mean, you don't have to give me a winner, but that's going to be, I think, a great fight, an interesting fight.
It's a very interesting fight, and I mean, when that fight comes, we'll have a show and we'll make picks, and who knows how I'll be feeling then. But right now, I hate that fight for Volkanovski. I mean, he is a great defender, but he's going up a weight class. So he's going up against guys that are cutting weight, to make the weight that he's at. So his walk around weight to Islam's walk around weight, I mean, it's got to be different. And I just feel like, I mean, Islam's manhandling guys in that division, and Volk's going to try to move up to that division. And I don't like that fight for him. I think stylistically it's terrible for Volkanovski. But I mean, we'll see,
Yeah, what do you think's next for Charles? I'd still like to see Charles fight in Brazil in January. It's kind of a little bit of a quicker turnaround, but he's been an active fighter the last, couple years. And, what would it take for him to kind of maybe get another title shot?
Well, I think if you're going to try to get him on that Brazil card, you really got to kind of look and see who's out there and who he can fight, maybe a guy like Fiziev could take that fight. I mean, Poirier and Chandler are going to fight. I think that's way too quick of a turnaround after that fight for it to be, the winner of that to take on Charles. And I mean, Charles has beat everybody else up there. So, I mean, who do you give Charles? I feel like if you're going to give him some new blood, I mein, do you give him Dariush, who won?
Well, that might be the fight, right? Like, we'll just kind of link those together, right? Like Dariush won. Who do you give him? Give him Charles. Give him Charles for a number one. Maybe his shot for a title. He beats Charles Oliveira, then he gets the title shot next.
Yeah, I mean, and the timeline makes sense, and it seems like UFC is kind of getting here more to where they're putting got fighters in the same division on the same cards, winners losers type matchups where they're going to be fighting each other again on the same card. They kind of they're starting to keep those timelines kind of adjacent with each other.
Yeah, because I'd like to see Fiziev fight more Gaethje. I think that would just be a funner fight. But so I kind of like more Beneil and Charles kind of next there for each other. If they can turn around, if they can do that quick turnaround in January, I don't know. Beneil didn't seem like he got too hurt, but Charles looked like he got busted up a few times.
Yeah, I think though that I mean, we don't know, what kind of damage they took, but it didn't look like Charles took anything that, I don't think that he'd be able to be ready for if he wanted that fight. I think Charles wants to fight in Brazil, even though he lost. I mean, win or lose, he wants to fight in Brazil. I think, if they can get him an opponent, he'll be ready. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what happens next. Let's get into we're kind of talking the pre-show here. Aljo beats TJ Dillashaw by punches, but like 10 seconds into this fight, TJ throws his shoulder comes out of socket, comes out later, says, man, I've been holding up this division, but it's been happening. My socket's been, it's been going out all camp, like 3 or 4 times during camp. I say, kind of kudos to him for, I mean, TJ's a tough SOB, roids or no roids, but maybe once you take a bunch of roids and then your body's never the same and it's falling apart quicker because he doesn't have them, Craig. That's just kind of my theory here, because even in the Sandhagen fight, he got hurt, like tore his ACL and a bunch of stuff. Aljo's got to have what, like the weirdest, like to start off to a title reign ever. The wins the title, getting in a DQ, a close fight with Jan, which people kind of scored for Jan. I mean, what a weird thing here for Aljo. I mean, he just makes it worse. We talked about he's really the king of cringe. I mean, Aldo versus TJ, what was your thoughts there, man? It's just a weird fight to me.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, why do we keep on getting all these weird fights with Aljamain Sterling? Like you said, the way he won the belt and these two defenses, I mean, it's just, I don't know if we've ever seen anybody's like, the beginning of a title reign like this. I know we've never seen anybody win the belt the way that he did. He's the only person that's ever won a title on a disqualification. This fight was disappointing, man. And I mean, nobody knew about Dillashaw's injury basically until right before the fight. And he kind of let some people know. I mean, it sounded like right before he was about to walk into the octagon. And they were kind of saying some stuff to Dana after the fights about, how does the athletic commission not know that? I mean, and Dana said, how are we supposed to know if they don't say anything? I mean, we don't know that his shoulder is, dislocating and getting popped back into place while he's working out in camp. And I mean, kudos to TJ for owning it at the end, but man, there's a lot of people out there that put money on TJ. I took him as my dog. I wouldn't have took him if I'd known that he blew his shoulder out 2 months ago and it's been dislocating all through camp, And then, I mean, the fighters behind him, I mean, he owned it for holding up the division. But, man, I mean, that could have been somebody else's title shot today. That could have been – I mean, honestly, this was about the only disappointing fight on the card. And it was disappointing because TJ was taking a beating and you knew he just couldn't do nothing about it. You knew that it wasn't TJ Dillashaw at his best. I mean, he couldn't use that arm for nothing. And then even after he put his shoulder back in and came out in the second round, all he did was throw rights. I mean, just heavy rights.
Couldn't do nothing. Yeah, his left shoulder was gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was disappointing, and then it gives us just another question mark with, Sterling's reign here. So, I mean, TJ said he didn't want to wait a year for another title shot. I mean, that was probably it. Probably should have waited a year because he might not ever see a title shot again, depending on how things play out. Sterling's talking about, Triple C or Cheeto. He had his little names for everybody there in the post, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to take too much away from Sterling, but I just still feel like, I don't know. This is one of, like you said, it's one of the weirdest kind of title starts and title reigns we've ever seen.
Yeah, Tanner's, before we get into what's kind of next for both these guys, he says, when did UFC come into play? I think he meant when they start doing a day UFC, because he said that on Facebook here. When they go to Abu Dhabi, baby, on Fight Island, we always get one good day UFC card, pay-per-view, usually a year. Craig, I mean, kind of what's next? Who do you think is next for Aljo, the title? My pick is just Henry Cejudo. Let them King Cringe versus King Cringe, and let's see who can be the cringiest. Imagine how good or cringy those freaking promos are going to be when those two guys have their press conference. So let's just get it out of the way so we can get some good laughs and just think how dumb these both guys are on the microphone. I mean, hell of a talents in the ring, guys who could out-wrestle anybody, but let's just go ahead and get the worst over with.
Yeah, that's going to be a terrible presser if it happens. I mean, if Cejudo's going to take a fight, then let's make it happen. I mean, right now, Cejudo, John Jones, they're kind of in the same territory where they're sitting here talking about how they can beat everybody in the division and this and that, but they're not taking any fights. So just like shut up or put up at some point, So Cejudo's still out here talking. He was tweeting out today, that blah, blah, blah. I need to come back because, this is easy money out here. None of these guys can hang with me. Well, then just come and do it, man. If he's not going to do it, I mean, I don't know, before the fights today, we were kind of under the impression that whoever wins the O'Malley-Yan fight was fighting the winner of this one, but then things just played out strangely, and that may not be the case now. I think Cheeto is there and deserving, and Sterling threw his name out there. So, if Cejudo isn't going to come in and take a fight, I don't mind seeing Cheeto get a shot. And then, of course, O'Malley's name's going to be in the conversation. We'll get into that fight too, but being the winner against Peter Yan, his name's at least going to be in the conversation here.
Yeah, for Aljo, I would like. I think, like I said, I want Henry Cejudo. For TJ, I think TJ is somebody. What about a TJ Dominic Cruz rematch just for old time's sake, just to see if TJ still got it, and give Dominic Cruz, one last crack at it. I don't just like looking at the rankings, right? Like, TJ hasn't fought a lot of these guys. Maybe do TJ Marab, but I like, Peter Yan for that fight actually more, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Maybe do TJ Rob Font. Where's he been at? You know what I mean? So somebody like that.
Yeah, and how much time you think TJ is going to miss, getting his shoulder straight. So some other guys might take some other fights. So who knows what's next for TJ, man. Him and Dominic Cruz, I want to say that's like cringeworthy also, but at the same time, why not make that happen? That's two names everybody knows, two guys that have been around a while. And like you said, let's see if TJ's got it, man. His win against Sandhagen was, controversial. Some people thought that he didn't win that fight. He got hurt, like you said, he got hurt in that fight, and then gets hurt immediately in this fight. He was hurt before he even went into the fight. So, like you said, man, you use those steroids for years, and then you stop taking them, the body starts crumbling apart. So, giving TJ a fight like that to see if he does still have it to even be hanging around in this top 5 area, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, they've already fought once before, in which TJ won. That was all the way back in 2016. So, and it was a decision, 5-round. All right, sorry, actually, Dominic Cruz won that fight via decision. So why not do it, right? Like, why not one more time lock it up with the old TJ Dillashaw and Dominic Cruz, and just kind of see, hey, this might be it for this end, that kind of era of that bantamweight part right there, real quick. Let's get into the man fight of the night here, Craig. We got Suga Show versus in a close fight against Peter Yan. We were just kind of mentioning it. Did Suga do it? You kind of just talked about it. Did Suga do enough here to win that fight, to get the title fight?
I just don't. I don't know, man. I don't think so. I tweeted out right after this fight happened, man. I love O'Malley. I'm glad he won. I'm glad he won. Peter Yan got robbed because he did. The stand-up was good on both sides. Sean O'Malley, he had his moments, man, and he rocked Yan a few times. But, man, Yan's counterpunches were, he was landing some of those too, and there were times where he had O'Malley rocked. And it was like just as soon as you thought Peter Yan was getting into a bad spot, he would rock Sean O'Malley. So to me, the deciding factor was the takedowns, man. Peter Yan getting 6 takedowns, Sean O'Malley not getting any. Peter Yan didn't do a lot on the ground, but still getting the 6 takedowns on the scorecard, that matters. So I feel like, it's tough for Peter Yan, man. Just his last 3 times in the octagon, the way that he's taken these 3 losses is just every single one of them is tough. So I just don't. I'd like to see Suga get another fight in there. I feel like, he was ranked to number 11, and he definitely proved that he belongs not at 11, that he belongs fighting these top 5 guys. But I don't think he won this fight. So if the decision would have went the other way, I think O'Malley would have still done enough to prove that he belongs up there with those guys. So I wouldn't mind seeing him get another fight before a title shot, especially if Cejudo is going to come back and try to fight for the belt. Then I feel like you got to keep O'Malley active and give him something in between.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. That was close, just a close fight. I thought O'Malley. The first round, I wasn't too sure quite who won. It was a close round. I thought Peter Yan won clearly the second round. I thought it was a 10-8 second round for Peter Yan. And then the third round, again, like they were both just really close, like great striking back and forth. I credit the takedowns to Peter Yan. I think one thing I want to say, like, I mean, if Peter Yan is taking you down and he's, out wrestling you, what's Aljo going to do to Suga Sean? Like, there's two things that I realized watching this fight. Number one, Suga belongs, win or lose that fight. I'm with you. I had Peter winning that fight. And then the back end is he's got a lot to improve, right? Like his ground game has a lot to improve. And hey, some of these guys at the top of this list, Sterling, Merab, like those guys are just smothers, guys that want to wrestle. They're not going to want to stand at a distance and try to strike with you. And Peter Yan is one of the better strikers. I said one of the best strikers in the UFC this morning. And he showed it again today. I really would have liked to seen that go 2 more rounds. And maybe one day we'll get that again for a title fight. But Suga definitely showed, hey, I belong here. I like, for Suga, I actually like Corey Sandhagen next. I think that would be a hell of a fight. 2 guys that liked almost similar styles. Sean's got a little bit, I feel like, more knockout power. And then, for Peter Yan, I'd like to see him and Merab go at it. That's Aljo's buddy. So, and they got beef there. So why not Peter Yan and Merab, who just beat Jose Aldo? So let's do those two. And I mean, this was kind of this today. We talked about it, Craig, like the Grand Prix of the end of the Grand Prix of the bantamweight. So let's kind of knock them down here the last few weeks here. So Dominic Cruz, we kind of matched him up with TJ. What did he do with Cheeto?
What about a Cheeto and O'Malley? I mean,
round 2.
Yeah, with the way that the first one went, I mean, both of those guys arguably could fight for the belt. And if the belt is going to be a Henry Cejudo show, I mean, why not make that your number 1 contender match?
Cheeto versus O'Malley, that would be great. I mean, then what would you do with Sandhagen?
I don't know. What do you do with Sandhagen?
Because he's that, you know what I mean? Like Sandhagen's lost to some of these guys, lost to TJ and the champ Sterling, Aljo, but he also lost to Peter Yan. Viva, like a short notice fight, but then he's kind of beat these other guys. You know what I mean? So he's fought a who's who here.
Yeah, I mean, we always kind of label Sandhagen as the gatekeeper, and it's like he's kind of done his job gatekeeping. So what do you do? What do you do next with him?
That's why I said him and O'Malley make the most sense. But then what do you do with Cheeto?
And him and O'Malley does make sense. I mean, and like you said, their fighting styles, that would be a good fight to see. But then what do you do with Cheeto? I mean, maybe the Henry Cejudo show doesn't happen, and maybe he just sits there and keeps on talking and doesn't come and fight, and you just give Cheeto to Sterling.
Yeah, or Cheeto and Dillashaw, I guess maybe, but that again, Cheeto's more active type fighter, wants to fight more. TJ, we don't know how long he's going to be out. So like, man, this division's a little crazy already. Like, I mean, just kind of looking at it, like we got more, we got some answers, but we didn't get a lot of clarity in this whole damn Grand Prix. Now it's a whole mix and match,
Yeah, going in, it was the winner of this fight is gonna fight the winner of that fight, and now both those fights just finished oddly, and it's back to who knows what's gonna happen. And then in the post fights, they were asking Dana the similar questions, and he basically said the same thing. Who knows? Dana kept saying, I don't make the fights. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah,
I like Peter Yan versus Merab though, and I'll take Corey and Sean O'Malley. I just feel bad if it's feel bad for Sandhagen and Cheeto. Maybe they fight. Or no, Sandhagen. So I got Sandhagen fighting O'Malley next.
Right, somewhere in there, there's an odd man out.
Yeah, unless Rob Font comes back, but Sandhagen beat Rob Font. Maybe Cheeto and I don't think Cheeto's going to fight down twice in a row. He already fought down. He fought Cruz down. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like Cheeto only should have to fight up, man. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Cheeto and Jan, but I do like Jan and Marab. I feel like that probably is the fight to make happen. So I mean, honestly, I don't care to see Cejudo come back, and like you said, him and Sterling is just going to be the cringe fest of all cringe-worthy activities, UFC. So I mean, if he doesn't come back, I really wouldn't mind. I mean, Sterling said his name. He said, "Give me Cheeto, Dorito, Vera," and I mean, let Cheeto fight for the belt.
Yeah, I'm okay with Cheeto fighting for the belt. I feel like he had the most memorable performance, right? I mean, Sean had a great performance, but like didn't get the knockout. Maybe it was because of the knockout that happened, but Cheeto had in this whole like kind of Grand Prix over this, summer into, here early stages of fall, like he had the most memorable moment, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and Cheeto's just, that's what he's been doing. He's been finishing, and honestly, I mean, outside of his loss to Aldo, I mean, Cheeto's been running through dudes, and that's why I wouldn't mind seeing him and O'Malley part 2. I feel like that fight's probably going to happen at some point or another. Just the trajectory that both those dudes seem to be on. But yeah, I mean, this Grand Prix is just. It's like a tournament that has an odd number of teams in it, and now we're at a spot where like one guy has got to sit and wait or something.
And they're so deep, right? Like, I mean, we haven't even mentioned guys like Pedro Munoz, Song Yongdong, and Ricky Simone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are all dudes who, can make a jump or have fought some of these guys up there.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are guys that are just coming off of losses against dudes in the top 5. But I mean, they're still kind of in there. I mean, Song just lost to Sandhagen. Like we say, we call Sandhagen the top 5 gatekeeper. So that just means Song's not ready for the top 5 guys, but he's definitely fighting, top 10 guys. So it is, man. It's deep. It's deep. There's a lot of dudes involved here, and then Henry Cejudo's sitting out in the shadows too. So there's a lot of things that could happen.
Do you think Henry Cejudo should be the next? He should get to me. He should get the title, right? Like a title shot. He never lost the title. I mean, for everything that's all senses purposes, like he retired. I mean, a fake retirement at that. And we all kind of knew that, and hasn't handled things well, but. Outside of that, but I mean, still a guy who had the champ. If Khabib came back tomorrow, they would still be like, "Hey, him and Islam next." They're not gonna do him and Volk. You know what I mean?
Right. There's some dudes that get a straight title shot when they come back, and Henry Cejudo is one of the dudes that gets that. So yeah, I feel like Cejudo's not going to come back to fight, Cheeto for the number 1 contender spot. I mean, Cejudo's only coming back to headline a pay-per-view in a title fight.
Let's get back into the UFC 280 here, Craig. We've got a couple more fights to talk about. Beneil wins unanimous decision over Gamrot. Hurt Gamrot once. That game, even Beneil's so good at on the ground. And that's why I said like earlier, I'd like to see him and Charles fight. Kind of be that number 1 contender fight after Islam and Volk. And could they do that maybe the same card? That would be a great fight right there in the same card in Australia. Charles, I guess we want Charles to fight in January. So, hey, Beneil said he didn't really call anybody out, but just said, hey, I'll put anybody in there with me anytime. So, hey, let's go ahead and book you and Charles in January in Brazil.
Yeah, and I like
that. Could be a good co-main. That would be a good co-main.
The entire time today, his takedown defenses, basically what won him the fight, you know. So seeing how he would do against a guy like Charles Oliveira, that's a big challenge. He was supposed to fight Islam, you know. So we called him boring Benil before the fight, and it was a pretty boring fight. He did catch him that one time in the third, where I thought it was about to end the fight. But outside of that, man, just tactically, just great. And I had Gamrot as my lock because I really thought that he was going to be able to pull this out. But Dariush, man, just old man, not super pretty about it, but dang good, you know. You gotta. I'm not sure what's next for him outside of Charles, man. Looking at the rankings here, who else do you put him against? I feel like that probably is the fight. If you can get both them guys to agree and be ready for their Brazil card, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, that's what makes sense to me, right? Because he's not going to fight. Him and Justin Gaethje are friends. They're not going to fight each other. He said, we know Islam's now the champ and is going to go ahead and fight Volk. We know Gaethje and Chandler, they're fighting next month. Maybe he gets the winner of that fight. But I do like I said, I like him and Charles. What's next for Gamrot? He fought up now. This is 2 times he fought up. Now it's time for him to extend the ladder down. Who do you like here for Gamrot on his next fight?
Looking at the rankings here, Jalen Turner. That's the man that stands out. That seems like I don't know if Jalen got a fight. I can't think of one that he's got coming up. So yeah, why not Turner? He's in the ranks now. He's ready for a top, ranked top 10 guy. So we'll see where Gamrot falls after taking this L, but I don't mind that fight at all.
So this just popped up. I didn't see any of the presser afterwards. So I gotta listen to this.
He had the 2 shoulder surgeries during his suspension. I took him down. His shoulders were in the socket before the takedown. They were in the socket before the round ended, as far as I'm concerned.
Aljo's trying to say TJ's didn't pop out all on its own.
I flattened him out. I like to think that I'm the one that caused that to come out of the socket.
He's trying to say he's the one that caused it to come out of it.
I can't get behind this guy. I just can't. And man, who else I just really can't get behind is Henry Dang Cejudo. So I just don't even know if I can watch it.
It'd be a good fight, but I couldn't watch any presser up to it, anything leading, interviews, anybody like that up into the fight.
You can watch the video and see TJ Dillashaw's shoulder come out of socket, and Sterling didn't really do shit. All he did
his corner was yelling, his shoulders out, his shoulders out.
Yeah.
It made no sense. It's made no sense.
And I really thought, right in the beginning, when Sterling was on top and TJ, you could see the pain in his face as he was grimacing. I thought the fight was going to get stopped right there. And I think probably more times than not, it probably does. And TJ said after the fight that he told the ref going in that, hey, I've been having issues with my shoulder. If it pops out, don't stop the fight. Let me try to make it to the corner and get it back in. And that might be the only reason it didn't get stopped sooner,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I don't think that Aljo pulled it out. I really do think the roids not being on him and not on him. I think that affects your body. You know what I mean? So he's breaking down.
When TJ was falling backwards and he tried to catch himself with the arm, as soon as the arm hit the mat, you could see the shoulder come out of socket. All Sterling was grabbed his foot and pushed him backwards. I guess if you want to take credit for that, okay. But I mean, come on, man.
I might never root for so much for Henry Cejudo to win a fight in my entire life, but then Henry will say something stupid, and I'll just be like, God, I can't. Just somebody else hurry up and become the UFC bantamweight champion, please.
Right, and then hopefully at that point, like Cheeto or O'Malley or Peter Yan or somebody just knocks Henry Cejudo out.
Yeah, I do want to back to the O'Malley thing. Like O'Malley to me, when like his body language, when he's just sitting there like breathing like this and his hands up, he's like, I feel like he's just like, please say my name, please say my name, please say my name, please say my name. Like that's just how I felt. Like I was like, I don't think he thought he won that fight at all. I do feel like he was very humble afterwards and was like, shit, I don't know. Like, I don't know, but, you know, I'll take on – he's not ready for Aljo, really.
He was humble. I think he was kind of shocked, man. I don't think he expected to get his name called. Because even after they asked him, I mean, these guys are competitive. And I think if O'Malley truly thought that he – beat Peter Yan, then he would say, yeah, I did. I beat the #1 guy. Give me my title shot. Where's my belt? You know? And he said, I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch this fight. This thing could have went either way, which tells me in his head, he don't know that if he won that fight or not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he knows that, you know, he might need another fight before he goes and fights Sterling. If he can keep it on the feet, I mean, I like his chances against just about anybody in the division. Because he even proved it today against Yan. I mean, he's a great striker and he's a great puncher. He's got good combinations, great footwork. But like you said, if Peter Yan can take you down 6 times in a fight, I mean, what's Sterling going to do? Sterling's not only going to take you down, he's going to keep you down. And O'Malley's going to have a tough time if that's his next fight. He's going to have to do, I mean, call Khabib. Man, wrestling training, because whatever Khabib is doing, whatever the water they're drinking there at Khabib's camps, man, it seems to be working.
Hey, I meant to say this earlier too. So like, it's weird that they didn't credit like Peter Yan for those takedowns in the wrestling. I was like, I guess in all places, all wrestling doesn't matter in Abu Dhabi. Like out of all places, like the place where these guys all wrestle and come from, and you know, have such a background and high for Islam and Khabib. Those judges didn't give a F about Peter Yan's takedowns.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. And like I said a little bit ago, man, it's just tough for Peter Yan. I mean, he tweeted out, you know, F the judges. And you got to think in his head, man, he can't trust a single fight to go to the judges because it's 2 in a row. I mean, on my personal scorecards, I think he did lose the Sterling fight. He just there was just too much control time that Sterling had in that fight. But
then he does the same to O'Malley and loses.
Right, you're right. I mean, he's got to be. I mean, I don't know. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, it is. Back to Gamrot, I think you hit the head on the earlier when you said Jalen Turner to me, like that was the name that I plugged out too. Like I think Jalen Turner is an absolute stud. I mean, I don't know how a 6'4" guy drops down to like 155 at all, even for a split second. I think that dude is going to be something fierce moving forward in this 155 division. I'm very high on him and Faziz. Like, so, but yeah.
Yeah, Jalen Turner, man, he's got length and he's got some skill, man. He's definitely seems like he could be a problem in the division.
Yeah, I do. Let's get into the main card open. Card opener there, and that was Caitlin Chikagian. She's upset by Fiorot. I mean, Fiorot just outpoints her and wins a decision here.
Yeah, it was a good fight, man. I had it, 1-1 going into the third, and then Fiorot just won the third. I felt like I had her winning the fight as well, and I mean that was a big win. I mean, Chukagan #1 ranked in the division. So she's definitely for real 5-0 in the UFC now. And yeah, I mean, like I said, like you said, she just outpointed her. I had it 1-1 going into the third. She won the third. And I mean, that's how you win the fight,
Are you giving, I mean, Caitlin Chukagian was the number one contender. Are you giving Fierro this title shot against Chevy? I'd like to see Chevy. So this is what I think they could do, and they should still do, because Fierro's so young, and she is still kind of up and coming, and it hasn't been in the UFC very long. I think they should do Chevy versus Nunes, in Brazil, and then kind of give her Fierro another fight while those two fight.
Well, if they can get Nunes and Chevy in Brazil, definitely got to do that. I still think I had Alexa Grasso kind of listed in this area. She just won a fight, 2 weeks ago? And they're both right there, in that top 5 cusp. There's a bunch of names here in the top 5, and Chevy has beat them all, just about all of them. So, what's next for her outside of, if you're going to give her some new blood, then I feel like it's got to be either Grasso or Fierro. And if you can match those two up against each other while Chevy's fighting Nunes in Brazil, I mean, to me, that's probably the best route to go.
Yeah, I do think that's probably, like I said. What's next to what you got here for Kachagian? She's kind of fought the top everybody else too. It's like she's been there, kind of been like that kind of gatekeeper-esque type fighter.
Yeah, she's in a tough spot, man, because when you're the #1 contender and you lose a fight, then you got to start fighting, people below you, and she's beat a bunch of them. So, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look here and see, who they've got fights set for. I mean, you could do. I mean, she's already fought. I mean, I guess maybe put her against Lauren Murphy. Maybe put her against Santos.
That would be good. Tyler comes back. Her and Tyler Santos.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who else you put her against. I mean, she's got a ton of wins, man. She's beat a bunch of people in the division. I mean, she lost to opponent that's probably gonna, be cracking the top 5 here, and so I mean, you can't make her fight too far down. I mean, maybe if you don't get this Chevy Nunes fight and somebody is fighting Chevy, Fierro can, if she fights Chevy, then maybe you give Grasso to Chukagan. I mean, coming off of her win.
Yeah, that'd be good. Let's get into the welterweight here division, Craig. Bilal Muhammad, beat Sean Brady in the second. I thought it was a little bit of an early stoppage. I would have liked to seen him let Brady get to his corner there. It's almost to the end of the second round, but Bilal was just putting a lot of pressure on him and then just kept putting pressure on him. I thought Brady was doing enough to stop his hands, but hey, I'm not the judge, but I felt like the judge was trying to get out of there early. What was your thoughts on the main event prelim and Bilal Muhammad and Sean Brady?
Yeah, man, this was a good fight. Maybe the stoppage was a little bit early, but man, Brady was taking some shots there for about, a solid 20 seconds, maybe longer than that. Bilal was putting pressure on the whole fight, and credit to Bilal, man, because he ate some shots. Because Sean Brady had some counter shots in there, and he threw some punches that Bilal just ate. I mean, he ate them, and he took them, and he kept the pressure up. It didn't even, make him change his game plan, which we see that a lot. We see guys, have an aggressive game plan, eat a couple shots, and then things change. But Muhammad just kept it up, man, just kept, stepping forward, keeping the pressure up, and eventually it just became too much. who knows what happens if Brady can get to the corner, and kind of get himself back together, because he definitely was rocked there. I mean, you can call it an early stoppage, but I don't think you can argue it too much either, because Brady, I mean, he was taking a beating there at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too upset with it. I just thought it was just a little early. Did Bilal, I mean, we know it looks like it's going to be Leon Edwards and Usman 3. Bilal's kind of in that range now where he needs maybe one fight, or he's got history with Leon. He called out Hamzat, but we know Dana's trying to work on Hamzat versus Colby. But Bilal said he would fight Hamzat at 180, like 181. He said, come check in my office, Hamzat. So what do you think's next year for Bilal here? I mean, he's probably just, one title fight, one win away from a title fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, like me and Kenny talked about in this fight, looking at Bilal across from Sean Brady, I mean, Bilal looked like he was 180. He looked, I mean, huge. I don't know what's next for him, man. I mean, I guess it depends how quick a turnaround he wants and how long he wants to sit. Like you said, he called out Leon, he called out Chimaev. If those are the only two names that you're looking at, they both got fights coming up early next year. So that means Muhammad's not fighting until maybe early summer, late spring, early summer. If he's wanting to wait and see how those things shake out.
He's been pretty active, he's an active kind of guy.
And outside of that, I mean, if Usman's fighting Leon, Colby's fighting Chimaev, the only top 5 guys sitting there left is Gilbert Burns. So I don't think Muhammad's going to fight down again after just doing that with Sean Brady. So I don't know. It's kind of tough to say what's next for Muhammad.
Yeah, that's he's in a kind of a weird spot. Unless it is Gilbert Burns. Burns has been linked to Masvidal, who is 11. I mean, if you're Burns, would you rather fight Jorge or would you rather fight Muhammad? Because I'd rather probably fight Jorge, because number one, that's gonna I think he can win that fight pretty easily. And two, just Jorge still has some name to some change to his name. So I would probably rather fight Jorge before I fight Gilbert, or before I fight Bilal.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think fighting Jorge is still a better payday for Gilbert Burns, first of all. And I feel like if you're Gilbert Burns, if you beat Jorge or if you beat Muhammad, either way, neither one of them gives you a bigger boost than the other, where you're sitting in the rankings. Everything above you still got to shake out. Those top 4 guys still got to shake out. And if you beat Muhammad or if you beat Jorge, either way, your name's in there to fight one of these guys, above you. So I think he's probably got a better chance of beating Jorge. So to me, that would definitely be the fight I would want to take for Gilbert.
And I definitely would rather see Colby Covington versus Hamzat than I would rather see Bilal versus Hamzat.
Yes, me too. I mean, Colby and Chimaev, that's going to be a great fight, man. I want to see that one. They got to make that. They got to get that one done.
2 heels going at it, right? Like, would like America or people side with Colby Covington more than they would Hamzat? Because I feel like people, you're either love Colby or you just hate him, and most people hate him. I mean, there is people that I guess there was a guy in office that people love, and they probably love Colby. So I guess people will love. I mean, that would be a weird fight. It's like 2 heels going at it.
No, it definitely is, man. And I was kind of thinking, maybe it's Chimaev's opportunity to get back on the good side. And but I just don't know, man. I mean, I don't know if you saw the clips today, but he was getting in some scuffles out ringside. At the pay-per-view fights today. And it's just like, man, everywhere this guy goes, he's just kind of a menace. He's starting trouble. He's always going to be a heel. And Colby Covington, I mean, that guy's always going to be a heel. So I just feel like this is just 2 guys that are just heels. And like you said, 2 heels going at it. So it'd definitely be interesting. But Style wise, fight wise, in the octagon, it'd be a great fight. I think honestly, it'd be a great measuring stick for Chimaev. I mean, Colby Covington ain't no joke.
No, it isn't, Mike, and that would be a great wrestling match to kind of see what would happen. And we've questioned, Hamzat's, endurance, right? Like nobody's ever questioned Colby's like endurance, like his cardio. It's said that he's got like a fourth lung. He can go for 10 rounds if needed. So we haven't seen that from Hamzat. He just kind of gets out of there, gets quick work, and gets out of there. The one time against Burns, he looked tired.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of seen it here as, Chimaev is starting to fight higher end guys. You can't just go in there and finish everybody in the first round, especially whenever you're fighting, top 5 dudes. So that is the big question with Chimaev, is the endurance. And like you said, nobody's ever questioned that with Colby, man. Colby's shown endurance, the whole time that he's been fighting up here at the top. So, I mean, it'll be a 5-round fight for sure. You got to think. So that's definitely advantage to Colby.
Yeah. And what do you think's next here for Sean Brady? I'm kind of looking at it. I'm looking at maybe a Daniel Rodriguez type, Neil Magny or somebody like that, kind of, fighting down. It looks like we're getting Shavkat versus Jeff Neal's kind of matched up. Maybe him and Vincent Luque, but who do you like here for Sean Brady? He already beat Michael Chiesa.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, like you said, maybe Luque. That was kind of one of the names I was looking at here, but I mean, yeah, outside of that, like you said, he already beat Chiesa. Neil Magny's not a bad name. D-Rod as well. Those would also be 2 good fights. Really, Sean Brady and D-Rod, I mean, looking at it and thinking about it, I don't mind that fight at all. I think that one would be all right.
Yeah, we're getting Wonder Boy's already matched up with Kevin Holland. That's happening in December. So really everybody's kind of getting matched up here in this welterweight division. I do think Sean Brady versus Neil Magny or D-Rod. I thought D-Rod, something happened with D-Rod just recently. He had a fight lined up and then he got hurt. Let me Google that real quick.
And Magny's not a bad fight either, man. I mean, both those dudes coming off of losses. Magny lost to your boy Rachmanov, and then Sean Brady coming off the loss today. So, a lot of times we see that, 2 guys fighting in around the top 10 coming off of losses, kind of match them up and see which guy belongs to stick around up here,
Yeah, I guess maybe I did. I thought I saw something with D-Rod that he was supposed to fight somebody. Oh, he was supposed to fight Neil Magny.
Yeah.
And I think he got hurt and had to pull out. Oh, never mind. It got moved. I take that back. Him and Neil Magny are fighting. I was reading this wrong. That fight was supposed to happen on, I guess, last weekend, October 15th. And it got moved now to November 5th.
All right then.
So that's what happened there. So I guess to me, you would do, if those guys are matched up, I mean, you can match Sean Brady up with the winner of one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, November 5th, that's just next month. So, I mean, you could still line them up there.
Yeah, he gets the winner of D-Rod or Neil Magny. Let me ask you this. What if Kevin Holland beats Wonder Boy? Would you do Bilal and Kevin Holland? I mean, that's an awful matchup for Kevin Holland, though.
That is an awful matchup, and I mean, I don't know if Kevin Holland beats Wonder Boy. I mean, where do you put him in this mix? You know, 'cause there's still a lot of guys in there. You know, if he beats Wonder Boy, you know, if they get Shavkat and Jeff Neal matched up, I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of things to shake out. Bilal's in a tough spot here, man. Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. Just the more you look at it, and the more you kind of start matchmaking like we do. Bilal's kind of the odd man out. I mean, he's almost in a spot where he's gonna have to let things above him shake out, especially if he doesn't want to fight down again. You know, it seemed like he almost kind of felt disrespected with that. So the two names that he called out are two dudes ahead of him. I think he's wanting to fight up. So there's just not a lot of options there for him.
Yeah, there's not I mean, and we'll talk about it when Kevin Holland and Wonder Boy fight, because then we'll have to go, you know, who's next on that one. Craig, that kind of wraps up our UFC 280 talk. Before we get out of here, next week it's Arnold Allen versus Calvin Kattar. And, you know, and what I think is like a must win for Arnold Allen to maybe get his name into the title scene here. Sounds like Volk's going to be in the featherweight, you know, out of the featherweight division as far as like, you know, for a minute. At least they're going to Australia in February. So you're looking at Volk fights Islam in February. He's probably not going to turn around until he wants to fight often. But even if he fights in February, you're looking at early May best. You know what I mean? The May card, April, May timeframe at best. So this is a huge match here for Arnold Allen. Who do you like, Calvin Kattar or Arnold Allen on next Saturday's fight night?
It is a huge match, man. And I mean, like you said, Volk is chasing the double champ. So things in this division are going to, you know, have a chance to work themselves out. They did ask Dana if he was going to put an interim belt out there while Volk was going to fight. If Volk was going to fight Islam, and it sounded like Dana White was not on board with that idea, that there was not going to be an interim belt in the featherweight division. But this is a huge fight, man. Calvin Kattar, man, he's been kind of on that cusp, and he's almost kind of turned himself into that top 5 gatekeeper of this division. So if Arnold Allen can win this fight, I mean, the way things above him look, there's so many question marks that could boost him into a title shot, depending on how quickly Volk comes back. So definitely a huge fight for Arnold Allen, and I'm gonna pick him here, man. I'm gonna take him over Calvin Kattar on the fight night.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think I'm going to pick Arnold Allen as well. Hammer that home, boys and girls, right here. You heard it 1 week prior to. Give me Arnold Allen, baby. That's going to be a hell of a matchup. Calvin Kattar's fought some tough fights. I thought he beat Josh Emmett last time out, but judges saw it the other way. Before that, it was he had a huge win versus Giga Jacazia, and then lost to the beatdown to Max Holloway. So he's kind of fought a who's who. I mean, if Arnold Allen, and we'll have to see if Arnold Allen wins, but kind of shakes out that featherweight. But he needs this. This is a big win, because then he can get himself, maybe talk himself into a number 1 title contender fight, whether it's Max, Yair, or Josh Emmett. Brian Ortega is hurt. Or maybe it's, maybe he does get the name draw here for Volkanovski.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, it kind of just depends on how things shake out there at the top of this division. Ortega's hurt. Who knows what's going on with Max? Yair, like you were saying earlier, that was the last time that Dana promised that, if you win this fight, you're getting the title shot. And then it just became hazy immediately when the fight was over. So, who knows what's going on here at the top of the division, but it's definitely, to me, it's a huge fight for Arnold Allen. You lose this fight, man, then you're fighting down, you win this fight and your name is in the conversation for a belt.
Yeah, Arnold Allen's not going to run. He's like won 8 in a row or something like that. So this is his biggest fight, tough test. Dana needs to stop saying, hey, this is – I know he tries to do that to buy tickets and to sell things, but just stop saying, hey, the winner of this fight gets a title shot, because it hasn't worked out for you in your favor when the fight happens. And you're like, well, you said earlier this week, well, I don't make the fights. Well, what the fuck is it that you do is what I'd say.
Yeah, that's where I was confused, because they kept asking him in the post fight, about, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? And he kept saying, I don't know, these guys just fought and I don't make the fights, and I don't make the fights. Well, just yesterday I seen the clip of you saying that you were going to make sure that Chimaev and Colby were on the London card with Usman and Leon. How are you making sure if you don't make the fights? Which one is it, Dana? Are you involved in making the fights, or are you not involved in making the fights? I'm confused.
How about Colby Covington having to go to London? Man, that would be real interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be Colby and Chimaev, 2 heels. But Colby in London, you just got to think. I mean, I don't know. The crowd's just going to boo them both, right?
Hey, and then so I'm just thinking about this before we get out of here. Usman's kind of got beef with both of them, with Hamza and Colby, right? Like, so who would you sit them next to, like, at the presser? So at the presser, I mean, like, hey, who's sitting next to who? Because same with Leon. Leon's had, some troubles with especially more Hamza than it has Colby. But I mean, Colby at times didn't want to fight him either. So it's like, who do these guys sit next to?
Yeah, I don't know. They're gonna have to have tables at the corners of the room or something. I'm not sure how they're gonna set that one up, but that'll be interesting. Hey, on the side note, on the prelims, the Krylov Ozdemir fight. What do you think's going on with Krylov now? I mean, he's in a weird spot where he's kind of beat some guys and lost to some guys all here in the top 10. So it's, I mean, do you think he's earning? Do you think his win today over Ozdemir earns him, one of the top tier guys, or do you think he still kind of needs to beat somebody else in the 5 to 10 range?
He called out Anthony Smith. Which is, I think it's a proper call out. Let him fight Anthony Smith at number 5. Maybe even Jamal Hill. Somebody like that. You know what I mean? Rakic, we know, is going to be out for a while. Maybe he gets the loser of Jan Blachowicz and Ankalaev, but he's lost to both those guys, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's I know he lost to Ankalaev, lost to Paul Craig. I mean, if Anthony Smith is still going to fight and wants to take that fight, I don't mind that fight. But
I feel like Dominic Reyes has a fight coming up. Who's he fighting? He's fighting. I think he's coming back in November too.
He's fighting Span in November.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, a UFC. Yeah, he's on the UFC 281 card fighting Span. So maybe do the winner. He gets that winner. Nikita Krylov wins. That kind of matches up as well.
Yeah, that timeline does match up. You said Jamal Hill. I don't think he's got a fight. That's another guy.
So, I mean, but he called out Anthony Smith. That's kind of the proper call out. Anthony is coming off a loss. So, against what's his name? He's fighting
Ankalaev, right? I think.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Both of their last losses, then I guess.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a kind of a good proper call out. Anthony Smith's kind of been that top 5 gatekeeper, as you'd like to call it. So let's give him that. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Craig, before we get out of here, give me your before one more actually go ahead. Give me your grade here for UFC 280.
I'm gonna give it a B+. It was a great card, man. I feel like it's got to take a knockdown just because of the way that things played out on the co-main. And I feel like it's got to take a little bit of a knockdown just because of the way the Yan and O'Malley fight, the scoring went. I feel like it was off. I feel like the judges missed it sometimes. I feel like this is one of the times they missed it. On an entertainment value, man, it was great. I love these cards. Anytime you can get ranked dudes fighting on the prelim cards, and the entire main card was good outside of TJ being hurt. So it was a great card. I'm gonna go B+ with the grade. I know we don't do dogs and turds on this show, but if I could give out my big fat turd of the week, it'd be freaking TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah, just the skeptical. He should have just came out and said when he got hurt, but. I get it. Like, hey, this might be my last title shot run, so I'm gonna try to do it. So, I kind of go back and forth. It would have been interesting to see who would have got the title shot outside of him. So we'd kind of be in the same boat where we're at right now. I give it like kind of A-, same type of reasons you did. There wasn't a whole lot of finishes other than the main event, right? The TJ fight, the TJ Aldo fight was a finish. So, but the O'Malley, even though O'Malley and Peter wasn't, a knockout or a finish, it was still that was a fight of the night, an incredible fight for me. Again, I just thought it was back and forth, but I did give it to Peter Yan. But hey, man, like I said, I guess the wrestling's not all that important in Abu Dhabi. Before we get to our picks, so there is, I don't know if UFC shut down their UFC Pick'em, but there was no, I couldn't find it today, UFC Pick'em 280. So sorry, folks. We're going to have to find a different app to play that game. But for our picks, we each got 4 points. Me and Kenny's dog, Oliveira, lost. My lock lost. Your lock and dog lost. So we each got 4 points. So your dog won, actually, right, Craig?
No, the only thing that I lost was my dog and my lock. My dog was TJ and my lock was Gamrot. I got the other 4 right. I think Kenny only got 3 right, but one of them was either it wasn't his dog because Charles was his dog, so it was his lock.
Yes, his lock was Aljo.
Yeah, so we all ended up, I think, with 4 points. Freaking TJ Dillashaw cost me the belt.
So you know what they say, baby. To be the champ, you gotta beat the champ. By hook or by crook, baby. Your boy Bodkins and still champion, carrying it all the way. 3 pay-per-views in a row now. Headed to UFC 281. I'll see you at MSG. Right to here, baby. That's right, by hook or crook. I'm taking it all the way. UFC 281. We'll see who I pick. What's going to come out of this big brain? Izzy versus Pierre is going to be incredible. Chandler and Poirier. That card's just almost just as stacked as this card. But anyway, I'll be riding into UFC Madison Square Garden. The Headkicks and Haymakers Pick'em champ, baby.
I'm coming for that belt.
And don't worry, folks. You don't have to wait till UFC 281 to catch another episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. We'll be back next Sunday. We're going morning time again. Hopefully Kenny can survive here, but we did this evening show for him, and well, he was nowhere to be found. Actually texted me in the middle of the show, said he had some baby stuff happening, so we'll give him a pass. But we'll be back tomorrow night for our NFL Week 7 reaction show, and then next Sunday we'll be back. Headkicks and Haymakers as well. Obviously our love for UFC show continues. We'll break down that Arnold Allen fight and a couple other UFC news as well. So we'll be back. That'll be happening again Sunday at 7 a.m. Central Time Zone. So join us. Be a friend, tell a friend. Again, we'll be back tomorrow night, 8:30 Central Time Zone for our NFL Week 7 reaction show. And you can catch me in the morning about 9:45 Central with our Let's Talk Sports Week 7 preview show. So looking forward to that as well. Dan, I appreciate everything. Dan's kind of going through some stuff, folks, on Let's Talk Sports. So he's kind of stepping away, but we appreciate it, Dan. Get healthy, get better, my friend. You've built an incredible community, and man, I can't say enough nice words for you. You're a true inspiration to every person, my friend. For Craig, Kenny, I'm Bodkins. We're out of here. Again, be a friend, tell a friend. We'll see you tomorrow night, baby. I'm hitting that outro. If I can find the outro.